Okay, this is the third and final video on your questions from section 2.4 in Mathlinks on square roots of rational numbers and estimating square roots of non-perfect squares. It says question 15 says Kai needs to replace the strip of laminate that is glued to the vertical faces on a square tabletop. The tabletop has an area of 169 meters squared. What length of laminate does he need? So for this question, it's no different than just a perimeter question because we're really saying the area is 1.69 meters squared. What is its side length? Because this is really the same thing as the side length. There's a very fancy version of it. So we know that the side length, if we use our formula, area is equal to side squared, or 1.69 is equal to side squared. And if I square root both of those sides, the square root of side squared will be side. The square root of 1.69, I'm guessing, is 1.3, but we'll see. 1.69 square root, of course, is 1.3. So what is the side length? Therefore, the side length is 1.3 meters, and she will need, or Kai, I guess this might be a guy, 4 of those, so 1.3 times 4, which is 5.2 meters of laminate, because she has to go all the way around the perimeter of that square. Question 16, the label on a 1-liter can of paint states that the paint will cover an area of 10 meters squared. What is the side length of the largest square area that the paint will cover? So, this is 1-liter can will do a 10 meter squared. So what we're really looking for is what is the square root of 10 roughly for the side length, right? We want to know what the side length is. The square root of 10 is going to be just a little bit more than the square root of 9. Since the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 10 is probably approximately 3.1. But since it doesn't say we can't use a calculator, we'll grab a calculator and say, what is the square root of 10? It's 3.2. I was off. 3.2. So, oh, it says nearest hundredth of a meter. Oops. 3.16. 3.16 to the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places. So therefore, 3.16 meters is the largest side length of a square that will be covered with 10 meters squared. The second part says, what is the side length of the largest square that a 3.79 liter can of the same paint will cover? So since one can do this, then a 3.79 liter can do 3.79 times as much. So if I take the 10 meters squared and multiply it by 3.79, when you multiply anything by 10, you just move your decimal one place over. Therefore, the area of this one will be 37.9 square meters instead of 10. And therefore, the square root of 37.9 meters squared will be roughly a little bit more than 6. I'm going to guess 6.1 is my guess, because the square root of 36 is 6, so the square root of 37.9 stands to reason we should be around there. What is the square root of 37 point, dead memory, no, not 37, yeah, 37.9. Oh, that's not what I pressed wrong button. 37.9, the square root button is 6.156. 6.156 meters is the approximate side length of that. Question 17, some parks contain fenced gardens. Suppose that it costs $80 each meter of fence, including materials and labor. How much does it cost to enclose a square area with an area of, so here's the yard here. The area is, by the way, if you're not drawing pictures, you should probably get it used to taking story problems and trying to draw it out first. It's a great help for a lot of people. So what's the square root of this? Well, I have to take the square root of 1. So I know the square root of 121, since it's a perfect square, is 11. So I'm assuming the square root of 120 is going to be just a little bit less, so I can probably approximate it to be that. But we'll go ahead and use the calculator. Square root of this, 10.95. So if the side length is approximately 10.95 meters, then, and each meter costs $80 to build, well, the first thing I have to do is calculate what is the perimeter of this fence. So there's 4 10.95. So if I multiply this by 4, I'll get my perimeter. So take this number, you know what, since I have the ability, I'm gonna keep that just like that. Multiply it by 4, I get 43.8 roughly, 43.8 meters of perimeter for this yard, because 10.95 is one side length times 4 is that. And if each meter, so 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 4, etc., 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 costs $80 to build a fence, then I'm going to take this number and multiply it by $80. So 43.8 multiplied by the $80 per meter. Holy macaroni. It's going to be approximately $3,504, or listen, let's be realistic since we're estimating $3,500 roughly, approximately equal to $3,500 to do it. Question 18, a frame measures 30 by 20. So I'm going to first draw this 30 centimeters by 20 centimeters. And you want to mount the square, can you mount a square picture with an area of 500 centimeters? So you want to put a square picture with a 500 centimeter squared area inside that rectangle. Will it fit? Well, if it is going to fit, then we know that this square has to have a side length that is less than 30 centimeters, and more importantly, less than 20 centimeters. Because if this is more than 20 centimeters, like if I take this and make this more than 20 centimeters, then it won't fit on that. But if it's less than 20 centimeters, then I could fit that anywhere I want. So in order to figure out what the side length of this square picture is, I need to know what the square root of 500 is. And if it is less than 20, then I'm okay, I'm gold, I can mount it on that thing. So what is the square root of 500? The answer is 22.3, which means it's going to be slightly bigger than 20 centimeters, and therefore cannot be mounted on that rectangle. And finally, your last question says, Léon's rectangle living room is 8.2 meters by 4.5 meters. So almost the exact same question that we just had, 8.2 meters by 4.5 meters. And the exact same thing, except this time there's a little variation to it. A square rug covers 2/5 of the area of this floor. Uh-oh. What is the side length of the rug? Well, in order for us to figure out, I need to know what the area of this room is first. In order to find the area, okay, so to determine the area of a rectangle, we know that the area of a rectangular room, the formula is length times width, or LW. So if the length is 8.2, and I multiply that by the width of 4.5, and grab my calculator and say, what is the area of this room? What's 8.2 multiplied by 4.5? And the area of this room is 36.9 meters squared. So 36.9 meters squared. That's step one, is to calculate the area of that particular room. And it says a square rug, which let's make a blue rug. A square blue rug covers 2/5 of this area. So when I bring this in, it will cover 2/5 of the room. So I want to know how big of an area would cover 2/5 of the room. So if I think about 2/5 of the area of the room, which is 36.9, and we know that of means multiplication. So essentially, I want to figure out what is 2/5 of 36.9. So if I'm going to use a calculator, I probably don't want to use fractions. 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10, and 4/10 is equal to 0.4. So since 2/5 and 0.4 are the same number, what I'm going to ask myself is, this rug, since it takes up 2/5 of the area of the room, will be roughly 40% of the room's area, or 2/5 of the room's area. So I grab my calculator and say, what is 40% or 2/5 of the area of the room? And therefore it's 14.76, which is the area of the rug, since it's 2/5 of the room's total area. Oh, we're not even done yet, because we still have to figure out what is the side length of the rug. So now I figured out the area of the room. Now I figured out the area of the rug. And now all I have to do is, in order to figure out the side length of this square rug, I need to calculate the square root of 14.76. If I'm estimating, I know the square root of 9 is 3. Square root of 16 is 4. So the square root of 14.76 is probably like 3.8 or something. But grab my calculator. 14.76, square root button. It is 3.8. 8 is what it wants. So therefore, after all of that work, the final answer is, therefore, the side length of the rug is approximately 3.8 meters.